You know, if Nintendo does have more in store for us in 2020, I really wonder what it is. Could we see a new Donkey Kong hit the Nintendo Switch, or maybe we will finally get that Mario Kart 9, or even a Diddy Kong Racing 2. Hell, maybe The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker will finally hit the Nintendo Switch. Come on, Nintendo, I know you want to. Hey guys, it's Rob here, and welcome back to the Robo-chan Show, where we cover the latest gaming news, leaks, and rumors from Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo in 2020 and beyond. If you want to be kept up on the latest gaming news, make sure you click that red subscribe button below this video and that notification bell so you know when I upload. In this video, we're going to go over some past Nintendo leaks now that Nintendo has announced a healthy amount of Nintendo Switch games like the new Zelda game, Pikmin 3, and of course everything from the Super Mario 35th Anniversary Direct, and so on. The so on being a lot of the indie Direct stuff and the third-party Nintendo Switch games. I really can't wait for Shin Megami Tensei, as well as talking about some interesting quotes from an actual developer who's talking about the next Nintendo Switch, as well as talking about Nate the Hate, who seems to be talking about some interesting things when it comes to more announcements in 2020 for the Nintendo Switch, which would actually really shock me if it does happen. So Nintendo has been quiet for quite some time, or was quiet for quite some time. It was nearly a year before we saw any large announcements or new games popping up, but now it feels like Nintendo is finally back to announcing Nintendo Switch games for 2020 and hopefully 2021. Anyways, so far in the past 2 months, we have Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity, the prequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 1, Super Mario 3D Collection, the Super Mario 3D World, plus Bowser's Fury, and Pikmin 3, as well as small updates on Breath of the Wild 2, which I have tons of videos on those. If you want to watch them, they'll be in the description below. It's almost as if Nintendo stretched out the general Nintendo Direct over the course of the year when you consider other announcements like Paper Mario and the Origami King. And in all of that time, I've covered a lot of these Nintendo Switch rumors and leaks too, and with Nintendo revealing a lot of these games as well as recent rumors of a Nintendo Switch Pro popping up again, I think it's worth looking back at some of these old Nintendo leaks that I've covered in the past. Now, the reason why I'm looking back at this specific Switch leak, despite the name of the leaks of the Twitter handle, is because the tweet right here, non-Breath of the Wild 2 Zelda game, will probably be like, oh duh, when it's launched. Now, this could either be pointing to the two Zeldas that recently happened. One is still unknown, and the other isn't. The one that's unknown is of course the Skyward Sword, which was listed on Amazon, which this Nintendo Switch leak appeared way before that listing and definitely before Age of Calamity. Not only that, but on the same thread of Nintendo Switch leaks, she also said there will be two hardwares, one obvious, one not so obvious. This could be alluding to the recent rumors of the Nintendo Switch Pro, and the one not so obvious could be the Mr. Game & Watch or something that has yet to be revealed. Now, Nate the Hate, who's become a pretty big source for Nintendo leaks, has recently stated that Nintendo has more surprises this year when talking on the Spawncast. And if you remember way back, that new Marco Maro leak I covered, part of it did say that Nintendo was going to be more aggressive starting in September, which we're actually seeing. We have had the Mario Direct and the Hyrule Warriors game, as well as an update on Breath of the Wild. A very small update, but still an update. As for what the Nintendo Switch leak said, this is what it said. New Mother/Earthbound/reboot, new Skylander Toys to Life game/experience, Metroidvania game for Nintendo, new Metroid, re-release of N64 games, new Dragon Quest game, new game related to Undertale, which by the way that could be Deltarune 2, though I'm not 100% sure when that game was officially revealed though. Mario everyone already knows, and non-Breath of the Wild 2 game, which this could be Age of Calamity. New Square Enix game, Nintendo using a legacy IP in an unexpected way. Now this could be for Mario Circuit, or it could be for the Mr. Game & Watch handheld. And the last one is a new DK property, which I really hope it is, because we haven't had a DK game in a while. Now this does close out with the Nintendo leaker talking about something going on that's going to be weird with the past games or systems, and says think about a very easy way for Nintendo to rake in tons of money. So what is going to be limited that's talking about past games and past systems that can rake in a ton of money? This could be pointing to the limited release of the Mario games and the Mr. Game & Watch, which by the way, in less than a week, the Super Mario 3D All-Star Collection became a second best-selling game in 2020 on Amazon. In less than a week. That's pretty crazy, and it still has 6 months. I would say that limited release is really helping it out, which my thoughts on that will be in the description below and in the top card that's popping up right now if you want to hear my thoughts on that. But anyways, a lot of these things have been happening, like the non-Breath of the Wild 2 game for instance. We had no idea this game was going to be a Hyrule Warriors of all games and a Breath of the Wild 2 skin on it. I meant Breath of the Wild 1. And yet somehow this leaker comes out and says exactly what this game is going to be without really exactly saying the title and what it's going to be. And then you have the part about the two hardwares, one obvious, one not so obvious, obvious, which could be the Switch Pro, and the obvious one could be the Mr. Game & Watch system, or of course something we haven't seen yet. I mean, Nintendo always has these wacky ideas up their sleeves, like the Nintendo Labo. Who thought the Nintendo Labo would be a thing? Or Mario Kart Circuit? Who actually thought Nintendo would do something like that? Not me, anyways. Now, to add more to this whole Nintendo Switch Pro or 4K Nintendo Switch rumor that's going around, we actually have a developer talking about a new Switch hardware recently. Now, this developer is FDG, who's responsible for the game of Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. And as Review Tech USA pointed out in his video on this topic, developers usually don't come out and talk about next-gen hardware so early on Twitter, which I agree on and makes a lot of sense. And this is what the tweet says about the next-gen Switch. I have the Switch version, looks like I'll have to hunt down the PS4 copy. And then the developer replied with this: who knows, maybe Switch has some next-gen hardware in the oven. Now, a couple things to take from this. This would imply that you could still play Switch cartridges on the next-gen Nintendo Switch, which is something I've talked about here on the channel and something I really do want for the next Nintendo Switch. Now, I have covered other Nintendo Switch Pro rumors that talk about Nintendo Switch Pro coming out in 2021 of Q1, as well as recent Nintendo Switch rumors too, which I have links to those in the description below, and one will pop up right now for you right now. But I highly doubt it's going to come in 2021. It could be revealed in 2021, but I think it will probably be coming out in 2022. And another reason why I think this is true, that it's going to come out in 2022, or it could, if we're super lucky, 2021, is that Nintendo likes to release new consoles every 5 to 6 years. If you look at the list of all the consoles and the handhelds, it is between 5 and 6 years between each re-release or release of new consoles. They pretty much work like clockwork when it comes to releasing new consoles. And I think a 4K Nintendo Switch or a Switch Pro is definitely needed, so Nintendo can keep up with that third-party support. And yes, the Nintendo Switch is still getting third-party support for the original Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch Lite, but as next gen rolls around, games will not run on the Nintendo Switch or not run as good, even if you make those sacrifices. Now, I'm no tech guru, but from the videos I have watched on this topic, there are certain parts in the next gen hardware that let games run at a higher frame rate, or they have a better resolution, and the DLSS in Nintendo Switch 2 or Nintendo Switch Pro or whatever they're going to be calling it would be a good idea and something that a lot of people are throwing around. Which, for those who don't know what DLSS is, it's a technique used by Nvidia that lets your games look like a higher resolution off of a lower resolution, from what I understand. And this could be how Nintendo Switch is going to achieve that 4K or the look of 4K or higher resolution and frame rate, which requires more. Like, why did I say requires like that? God dang it, which requires more power. I don't know what's wrong with me today. This is the quality content you guys asked for. Now, I think Nintendo knows that third party is very important, and yes, first party does push a lot of units in Nintendo Switch consoles, but you need third party to supplement the first party windows where you don't have a lot of first party games releasing. We saw this heavily on the Wii U, which among advertising problems and other problems with the Wii U, if you remember, there was that infamous Wii U drought, and I think Nintendo doesn't want a Nintendo Switch drought, which could come if Nintendo doesn't release a hardware refresh to get that third party support. Now, the thing I hope they do is keep the cartridges and you can still play your original Nintendo Switch games on this 4K Nintendo Switch or the more powerful Nintendo Switch. That way people can upgrade and already have a huge library of games, but at the same time those people who are still on the Switch Lite or the original Nintendo Switch can still buy those games and play those games on there. Or some of those games, because it will probably be very similar to how the new 3DS and the older 3DS worked, where you had games like Xenoblade that didn't run on the older models but did on the new 3DS, as well as other games too. I think there was like 1 or 2 other games, but the new 3DS also had better performance. And if I recall, I think it did also have better 3D too. Now, turning back to the Nintendo Switch leaks again, I want to talk about one of the games that appeared on that list and my hope for it if it comes true, specifically that Donkey Kong game. Now, we haven't had a new Donkey Kong game since Tropical Freeze, if I recall, so even though I think maybe a new Tropical Freeze type Donkey Kong game would be cool, I kind of want to see Nintendo do the exact opposite and do a Nintendo 64 type Donkey Kong game. For a while, Nintendo has been taking these huge properties like Mario and Zelda and creating these huge new takes on older properties. Mario Odyssey was a really cool take on Mario 64 type Mario games. Breath of the Wild was an amazing take on your classic 3D Zelda games from the N64 era and the GameCube era, and then Wii U too, I guess. And I'm thinking Metroid Prime 4 will also be a new fresh take on your usual Metroid Prime game. So I'd love to see a new Donkey Kong 64 game and not another Tropical Freeze game, though I've never played Tropical Freeze, so once I do play that game, maybe that'll change my mind. There are so many Nintendo Switch games that I haven't got a chance to play, and GameCube and Game Boy Advance Advance, and all the systems. I've missed out on a lot of Nintendo games. Now with that all said and done, the next question is Nintendo going to be revealing these in trailers, or is it going to be in a full Nintendo Direct? Because even though we have these announcements like Pikmin 3 and the Mario games, I don't think Nintendo will be revealing a ton of games in 2020, or the rest of 2020 I mean. Even if these are fake, which is always a chance, so don't take them as fact because these are not fact. This could be a huge coincidence, but I don't think that they would be revealed in 2020, or at least not all of these announcements. Even if it didn't have anything to do with these games and Nintendo had some other list up their mind, or in their mind. I'm really not doing too good with my script today. I do not think we'll get a full Nintendo Direct in 2020, but I do think we will get a January Nintendo Direct. If Nate the Hate's words are true and do become true, I think we'll see them in trailers and not necessarily a September Direct or any of the Directs for the rest of the months of 2020. Which I hope I'm wrong. I love Nintendo Directs, but I don't really see it happening. I think if I was Nintendo, I would definitely release that huge Nintendo Direct at the start of January. I wanted to recover these leaks and talk about these news because I thought it was pretty interesting that despite coming from the fact of the Twitter handle that I won't say because I don't want to get demonetized, but it doesn't exactly scream trustworthy Nintendo leaker, but some of it could have been true based on the recent news that we got directly from Nintendo, like Hyrule Warriors and the Mario Direct. And if more does come true on this list, like a Donkey Kong game or those Skylander toys, then we know, okay, this list does have some kind of credibility to it. Which would really shock me because the account is, let's just say it's a little spicy. Oh, and by the way, I do have a Patreon if you want to support me on there, and a Twitter account if you want to follow me on Twitter, which link to both of those will be linked in the pinned comment, I mean. So what do you think about this? To look back at these leaks, Nate the Hate's words on the announcements for this year for the rest of 2020, the Switch Pro tweet with the possibility of backwards compatibility with the OG Switch. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and share and subscribe for more gaming news, Nintendo leaks, and Nintendo rumors and news. Thanks for watching, guys, and remember, stay safe, stay charged, and have a good one.